Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you're tuned into the review of Family or Fiancé Season 1, Episode 2. So, last week was the first episode of this series, and I thought it was good. I was interested in seeing more, but I kind of thought it was like it started out a little slow, and this episode 2, was like, oh, episode 2 must have heard me say that because there was so much going on in this episode, and it just this episode really showed how powerful of a show this is and how powerful of a concept this is. I'm sure a lot of families would have wished they had chances to do this, but it's really interesting just to see the perspective of like the family and how they experience, you know, the person that you're gonna get married to and so on and so forth. So let's just kick it off because there's so much to talk about. The couple this episode is Ashley and Karan. Ashley has, okay, let me just start out with who showed up for them. So Ashley's mom, Ashley's mother's partner, and her best friend, I believe, who we find out later on they used to be in a relationship, show up. So that's the 3 people that showed up for her. For Karan's side, his sister, his mom, and his stepdad showed up. These two couldn't be, these two families couldn't be any more night and day. They're polar opposites. Ashley's a little more wild. I think both of them together, Ashley and Karan, probably in their relationship is more wild and carefree. Ashley's family seems to be more relaxed, more carefree. Ashley's mother is a lesbian, and that comes up a lot in this episode. Her partner's there. Ashley is bisexual, so her ex is there. On his side, his family is very religious, so they have very oppositional feelings about that. The stepdad is kind of quiet. You don't really hear much from him. His mother and his sister are very outspoken in terms of what they will accept, what they won't, and how they feel. There isn't one person on either side that gives their blessing for this relationship, which was interesting because the last episode we saw there was a few, you know, mostly they didn't either, but there was a few who supported the relationship. Not one gave any blessings or any type of support for the relationship. On his side, some of the concerns were that he's arrogant, that he's not humble. He, I think at some point has somewhat of a temper or is not understanding. On her side, it's the mother didn't think that that's exactly what he wants, not what she envisioned for her son. She wanted someone who was a little more classy, and she deemed that Ashley was not. I will agree that Ashley was not. Ashley did not present herself in a very classy way. There's so many things that go on. Okay, so let's just start out. They meet with Tracy McMillan, the relationship expert on the show. She talks to them a little about their dynamic. You can see Karan is a little bit apprehensive to introduce Ashley and have his family come in because they're so different. And I think he knew just how different they were, and probably the fact that they wouldn't accept her. Not only because at the time, I don't think she even said that she was bisexual, but that they would accept her in general based on how she presents herself, and she's very hypersexual in the way that she dresses, and she calmed it down for that meeting, but clearly there's a lot that he knows that just won't vibe with his family. Her side was kind of concerned with just who they have known him to be because they have spent time with him. Red flag number 1, they've been dating for 3 years, and they've been engaged for 9 months, and he's never introduced her to his family. I mean, that is so telling. It doesn't even matter how scared you are about how someone may be perceived. If you care enough, then you make the effort. So when I heard that at the beginning of the episode, I knew that it wasn't going to work out because there's a reason why you have kept her away so long. So Tracy talks about different things, and then she basically says, here are the things that you guys are going to do. And so his task is to allow her family to ask him whatever questions so he can be open and honest and humble and understanding and kind of conversational and just a little more down to earth. Her task is to go shopping with the mom and the sister to show more of her demure side and be a little more relatable and bond. So one of the things, because there's so many things that happened in this episode, one of the reasons why his sister said that she was not in support of it was because she feels that he is still in love with an ex-girlfriend of his, and the mom seconds that. So of course Ashley hears that, she's upset, and so it comes back up when they go shopping. I think the task with him being asked questions by her family was fine. They talked about some things, I think it went pretty well. On her end, it did not go well. And if we take it back a little bit, he was concerned, saying, make sure that you're respectful, make sure you don't go off. And she's saying, I don't like your sister. I'm this close to going off, and I know how to be classy. There's no evidence of her knowing how to be classy at all. And I get it. I get that it's really difficult. I get that you might be offended, but like family, mixing families 101, like you still have to, you can set boundaries while being respectful, and you have to allow your spouse to kind of take the lead in addressing their family and expressing the need for respect for you. You can't just go off on your in-laws. It just doesn't work long term if we're talking about relationship building. So they go shopping together. She basically confronts the sister. Before she gets to go shopping with the sister, she basically tells the sister, I don't like your vibe. I don't like your energy. I don't like pretty much anything about you. Obviously the sister doesn't like her either, but I think the sister was a little more demure in the way that she expressed it, and a little more respectful, like, what is it? And she just said, basically, I don't like that. So fast forward to them going shopping, and Ashley pretty much confronts the sister about bringing the issue up with the ex-girlfriend, and she gets really upset that the sister won't tell her who that person is. And the sister says, listen, I brought that up and I want you to know that, but that's a conversation that can continue on with my brother. She doesn't like that. It gets pretty, disrespectful, and the sister walks out. So the mom is now talking with her, and it doesn't get any better from there. Ashley, I think, kept it together during that shopping trip, but the mom is kind of talking to her, and she opens up Pandora's gate in terms of sharing information that is not really appropriate and is not really necessary. And, she tells the mom that she's bisexual, knowing, and it's fine for her to say that, but her desire to share that is not to be open and to, get to know her and let her get to know her. It's just to kind of like stick it to her, because she knows that his mom is super religious and is not interested in anything in that sector. So it's really, my issue with Ashley, because she could have shared anything, is really respecting the boundary that her and her fiance probably should have set. So one of the things that she also shares is that they have threesomes, which, come to find out, isn't even true. And she admits that towards the end of the episode that wasn't true. She just wanted to get under her mother-in-law's skin. There are so many things that is wrong with that. And just, if you reel it back to like family dynamics and the significance of roles and who plays what, then ideally you would know that his mother plays a significant role. So it's not that she has to greenlight everything that you do or everything that you say. It's not that you have to wait for her yes or no. Like, no person has to do anything except respect each other. And so the fact that she kind of stuck it to her and made a lie. So now you have no control over your emotions or over your communication, because now you have put your fiance into a lie and created drama, regardless of what it was, because it's not necessarily about what she said, it's about why she said it. And I always say, how you do some things is how you do all things. So her saying that just to stick it to her would have meant that she would have said anything. It's not specific to what she said. And so that is more of a character defect that she has, where she's willing to go the extra mile no matter what in order to prove a point or to get a type of reaction. And it just went really bad. And I think because his mother, obviously she's offended, because she knows that his mother does not agree with her mother being gay. And for her, that's my mom, that I love who she's chosen. I love her. I don't care. So I could understand her being offensive as well. However, it's still about the communication of said things. And so that conversation, I don't think could ever go that great, but I think that we can have like a respectful dialogue about it and just move on, because that really wasn't the purpose of the weekend to begin with. So that conversation didn't go well. When they came back, his mother talked to him about her. It got ugly from there. They decided that they were going to leave. Now we see Karan's feelings of abandonment because his family's leaving, and he says stuff that hints to feeling like the black sheep, although he has a pretty strong connection to them, and I think they have a strong connection to him. Some of the things that he says, you can tell that he's a little bit of the black sheep, and that could just be because he's young and experimenting and doing whatever he wants to do, and you know, his family may or may not agree with that. But he didn't want them to leave, and he wanted them to be there. And so they said, listen, we are here, but there are certain things that are not gonna go. And I think beyond anything, I think it was just the lack of respect overall, because a lot of the conversations just got nasty. Then they got into an argument. So Karan and Ashley got into an argument. Besides all the many red flags in this episode, the way they communicate and the way they argue is a really big deal. The way you argue will really change the course of your relationship. Learning to set boundaries. My husband and I just did a video on things that you should know before marriage, and I'll probably put it up here somewhere so you guys can go see it. But some of the tips that we give, one of them is learning how to argue and really setting boundaries and setting those lines so that you know when you've crossed them. And the thing with setting boundaries and learning how to argue with your spouse or fiance, because they're about to be your spouse, is those lines aren't arbitrary. You will stick to them, and you will be able to call each other out on them so that you maintain a level of respect. They don't have that. There is no respect there. They're yelling, they're cursing at each other, which is bad enough, but they're doing it in front of family. There's no awareness of what should and shouldn't be happening right now. There's no awareness of who is in front of. There's no control. And it just shows how weak their dynamic is in terms of foundation, because the moment they get upset, F this, I'm out of here, this is effing, it just gets very ugly very quickly. And over time, that will chip away at your relationship, and you will treat your relationship with continued disrespect because there is none. So one of the tips I would say just from watching them is learn how to argue. Have some non-negotiables, and in the event that you cross them, you will be well aware of crossing them, and 9 out of 10 times you won't. I mean, every now and then there's a time that you might, but if you don't set the line, then you don't know that you've crossed it. So we see them continue to deteriorate in their language, in their body language, with their families. His family ends up leaving, and we see him. Well, they go to sleep that night. We see Ashley and her family kind of talk the next day. One of the things that did concern me as well was we find out when her family is asking him questions. We find out that the friend that she brings on, she used to date, but that wasn't something that was said before. I think she said it very last minute. So we're seeing Ashley kind of lie by omission, and she says, oh, I didn't lie, I just didn't say it. Well, that's not good enough. We all know that that's not a good thing. Lying by omission, that's an intentional thing to do. And I thought that was disrespectful, because having somebody who you've had that type of history with, that person should not be on the front line. It should have been another family member or a best friend that had no romantic history. And had he brought somebody like that, I don't think that she would have been okay with that, because the lines are skewed at that point. So that was a mess. And you're just seeing this really shady setup that is just no good. How can we be honest and authentic in this if we're lying when it's convenient, or we're not saying it so it's not a lie? It was just a mess. So the next morning they go meet with Tracy again, and it comes out that she lied about the whole threesome thing. They hadn't had a threesome, and she lied about it, and he was really upset because that's what triggered kind of the meltdown for his family. And that was just information, whether it's true or not, that was information she did not need to tell his mother. And so that goes back to that respect thing. Like, there's a dynamic. If you're like that with your mom and you have 100% openness with your mom, you can't do that with his mom. A, this is the first time that you're meeting her, but B, the sexual nature of your relationship, it's not really up for grabs for anyone but you and your significant other. And so to say it in such a way that was meant not to bond, not that that would be something you use to bond with your mother-in-law, but hey, whatever. It was meant to harm. It just made it a very ugly thing. So they get into it about that. One of the interesting things, though, that I saw Tracy talk about was them recognizing what their deal breakers are and taking ownership about that. So if she is bisexual and that's what she is, then be that and be okay with that and don't flip-flop. And if he does not want that, because that's one of the things that he says, he enjoys it, but he says he doesn't want to marry it. And that did not surprise me, because I've heard men say that a lot. Like, there's, you know, a lot of men will entertain women that they would never marry, and they'll tell you that that was for fun, I would never marry that. Whether that's right or wrong, I think the point here is that you're honest about your intentions, and he wasn't honest about his intentions, and he wasn't really honest within himself about what he wanted. If this is a time to have fun and be free, then do that. But don't be with someone who checks a box that is a non-negotiable for you and then argue with them about who they are. You have to let them go. And so I like that Tracy said, you know, set her free and then be honest with yourself about what you want and be okay with it. And so towards the end, they obviously decided that they would call off the engagement. Best news I've heard in all 2019, because it would have been the train wreck of all train wrecks. I mean, there's so much going on here. There's inauthenticity. There's you know, disrespect, there's lack of boundaries, there's a lot. And most importantly, when you marry someone, which is why the show is so significant, you don't just marry them. And a lot of people get that concept, but a lot of people still don't. Well, it's just me and you. I'm not marrying his mom. In a way, you are. Especially if he has a strong relationship with his mom. In a way, you are, especially if she has a strong relationship with her dad. You don't have to be besties, but you do have to recognize that that is an extension of your spouse. And there will be so many things in life that happen. You know, people will go to the hospital, there'll be surgeries, there'll be deaths, there'll be babies, there'll be weddings, there'll be all of these things that remind you that there's a village. Like, it's not just you two. Ever. There's always a village, and the key players in that village matter. And so it's important to build somewhat of a relationship, if nothing but respectful, with those people. So that was episode 2. I'm looking forward to episode 3. I think it was really, really good. Let me know what you guys thought, because this was jam-packed. Don't forget to comment, share, and like. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you can find out when I post these videos first. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to comment. Everyone have a great week.